The Honourable GATHONI Mushomba, the MP for Githunguri and the chair of the National Assembly's Constitution Implementation and Oversight Committee, is still our guest, and she's raising this conversation. She's saying, no, let's talk about resource allocation and how we allocate these resources. Should it be per person or should it be per region? Is it a constituency? Is it a ward-based? Is it a person-based? And this is the argument that you're fronting this morning. Yeah. And you're saying, if you look at your constituency, for example, the number of voters that are there, the number of wards that are there, and then you look at the way CDF is then allocated, you compare that CDF to a constituency, for example, Lamu. Lamu West. Lamu West constituency, the population of Lamu West constituency would be equivalent to a ward.
Not even, no ward in my constituency will qualify as a constituency in Lamu. We will be one ward, two constituencies in my area. If you were to use the formula in Lamu.
And yet the same amount of money for CDF is allocated to this. But then, Mheshimiwa, that's just on CDF. At national programs, is government programs allocated according to size of the people or according to needs? For example, when we say that we are going to build a water reticulation project, are we looking at the population that is going to serve, or are we looking at the area that is going to cover?
Ideally, we should take water where they are consumers. Right? Just the other day, we introduced taking water to where the consumers are animal, when we saw our elephants dying at the Savo. But the paradigm has been take water to where people are, to consume the water. But the implementation programs sometimes become a bit too expensive to take water to some areas. So you find it is cheaper to take water to some areas where it is easier to implement the project, because maybe there is availability of that water, and the costs of doing the project is also easier to do in some areas. So there are some areas that have those very projects based on the need, that is the consumers, and the simplicity of the project. I do not want to assume that I know that there are some projects that are in areas where there are no people. But where I come from, we have very many projects that were initiated during Kibaki's time and during Uhuru's time because of the Vision 2030 and because of the Big Four agenda that Uhuru Kenyatta was using to guide his development agenda. But like I said, there are areas that are pressured on such resources because of the population. A good example, come to Githunguri constituency where I represent. By the way, I don't know whether you know, Githunguri constituency is the richest constituency when it comes to putting money into the national basket. We revolve over 1.7 billion per month on milk produce. We are number one in Africa. Githunguri Dairy Circle is number one in Africa in terms of efficiency and the amount of money and profitability to the farmers. Yet, we are struggling to even get a blacktop on our main road, which is Githunguri Roiro Uplands Road. Yet, we have a place in Garissa, Hora, where there is nothing on all those kilometers in terms of national basket incomes, revenues, but they have a tarmac. That is why I'm here. I'm saying, 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Equate us with what we are giving you as people. When I start discussing this, there are people saying, when you speak like that, we have titanium Siju in this place, which is giving this amount of money. I spoke about the sovereigns, the people of Kenya are sovereign. We are discussing people. The only thing that is recognized in this constitution, it's not kilometers or stones or trees. It is people. So I'm saying, if Githunguri is giving 1.7 billion amount of money in circulation, how much taxes are we paying out of that 7.7 billion to the national basket of taxes? How many people are employed within that area to reside in that area, even if they are not voters of Githunguri? For example, Githunguri Dairy Circle, which is the owner of Fresher brand, how many people have they employed? Over 9,000 people living within Githunguri town, working in the factory. Those people are using our sewerage system, which we don't have. Githunguri does not have a sewerage system. And yesterday I told you I was fighting over budgets because I have been fighting to get budget allocations to get Githunguri a sewerage system. We drain our uchafu into the rivers. And that river downstream is what you people are buying domas and spinach from. So this whole mess of cancer and whatever, it's our own making. So a leader like Wamushamba is saying, because we are deriving this kind of tax. Yeah, we are very productive.
So because this area is productive,
yes,
it has a population that is productive, let us allocate resources, more resources here
into such areas.
Into those areas.
Yes.
You've taken us back into 1965, session of paper number 10.
Do you know the capacity of Githunguri is not even 30% of what we are supposed to produce? If only we provided those resources I'm talking about, give us sewerage, give us water. Do you know we are the owner of Roiro Dam 1, the only dam that supplies clean fresh water to Nairobi? Do you know people in Githunguri, including the town, don't consume water from the taps? They are still getting water from the boreholes, yet your Nairobi water is coming from Roiro Dam.
Right.
Do you know we are now preparing to come up with the Roiro Dam 2? Even when the Roiro Dam 1 water does not even 1 liter get to Githunguri town or to Githunguri residents. I have a reason to say 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, for heaven's sake. Do you know Githunguri is one of the constituencies in this country that is very heavy on coffee, very heavy on tea, and very heavy on milk? If we really mean bottom up, the place where we can actually put money for bottom up revamp of factories and industries is Githunguri. We shouldn't be speaking about put money on this.
Mheshimiwa, can I step in? Because we are under a devolved system of government.
Yeah.
And the reason we went for devolution is because prior to that, we had large parts of this country that did not receive national government investment because of the politics. Investments or transfers were based on political allegiance. And we all agreed, Kenyans discussed and agreed we don't want to go back to that. We need to safeguard in the constitution that every part of this country should have an equitable share of resources. We then agreed, or a framework was put in the constitution, that discussion will take place under the Commission on Revenue Allocation. That process, every 3 years, there is a discussion about the very issues that you're raising. How do we share revenue raised nationally? Because that's the conversation you're saying. Because there is revenue raised nationally, there is also the county sources of revenue, and then of course there is business and enterprise. Business and enterprise is about an enabling environment. Yeah. So Githunguri, for instance, that's a business, a cooperative business. In fact, a model that should be adopted all through the country. So successful. It has been impeded by political interests, but still it has thrived. But back to the issue of sharing of revenue. The principle is that as the nation of Kenya, we agreed we must all grow. Now, why have you not been able, how is this process not able to accommodate the issues that you're saying that are about basic justice? You're saying that this part is generating a lot, but losing more than it's generating. I don't believe you're saying that other parts of the country cannot benefit from the revenues generated by Githunguri. What you're saying is that more should be retained in Githunguri.
Yeah.
Why can't we? Because this formula is a discussion between all the counties
all the stakeholders.
And all the stakeholders. Why can't this discussion be there? And how do you then make sure you accommodate beyond population those other disparities?
Okay.
Then, just linking to that, the other issue that's considered under the shareable revenue, and I can look at some of those parameters, is moving away from project-based kind of thinking of development, looking at, they're talking about the health index. They're saying how large is the population, how well are they served in terms of health cover? So you look at a health index, which is the population versus the delivery of the service. Are you saying that the health index, agriculture index, and these other indexes that look at the service delivery is a wrong way to go? Because once you use an index, you can then argue we are low on the index, so we need more money.
No, Shiro. I think we are very good at what I call theoretical numbers and figures. We are very good. Our policies are very good, but implementation is the issue. What justification would anybody have to take away money that is supposed to be helping my people to come up with that Roiro Dam 2 so that my people can get sufficient water to produce more milk, and that more milk is taxed, and that tax is
but
used
you're
for this.
conflating issues.
No,
Number
no,
one,
let me finish.
Because you're talking about a formula. One person, one vote, 1 shilling. Then you're talking about implementation.
Okay.
Can we separate? Can we talk about the formula? Because that's why we are saying there's a national process every 3 years. Why not put that discussion in there so that formula can address what you're saying?
I have a problem with what you're saying, indexes. I have a problem.
Yes.
And my problem will still go back to what I said.
Yes.
Our processes of integrity and efficiency in implementing our own policies have questionable procedures. Allow me to just use an example of one of those indexes you're saying. Let's talk about health index, for example.
Right.
How true are the figures that I read from books in Nairobi? How true are they representative on the ground? For example, if I went to Ministry of Labor, I don't know whether they are the people who keep the database of the elderly persons of Kenya.
Social protection.
Social protection. I think it used to be in the Ministry of Labor for a long time.
It's now with the public service, gender and social protection.
If I walked into that office and I asked to know how many elderly persons we have in Githunguri who are insulin dependent, I'm still using your health index. Will I get the actual numbers?
You should.
You should.
I will not.
But you should.
But you should.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying.
Isn't your role as a parliamentarian to ensure that the systems work?
Can I finish? Please allow me. I have a problem with what we are supposed to do against what we are doing. And if we continue saying what you're supposed to do, we are continuing to be discriminated against. Because if you go to the office that, for example, share out relief food for the vulnerable families, I get so mad when I go to such offices and I'm told, Githunguri, you do not qualify to be under relief share. I asked why. Then I'm told because the number of vulnerable people in your constituency do not meet the threshold. Then I ask, can I see the numbers? And then the numbers I'm given, Eric, are not even close to what I have. I am the person on the ground. I asked how many vulnerable elderly persons do we have that are supposed to be getting relief food? How many vulnerable people do we have that are living with a disability? We don't have actual numbers. We don't have them. So if you're using what is in the national offices in Nairobi as the index you're talking about, and that is what you're using to share resources, we'll continue suffering. And that is why some of us
when you
leaders
say one
now
man,
are saying,
one vote.
Yes, we are saying let's now use the vote as an index, if that is what is going to sort my problem. And for me, please understand, I may not be able to theoretically implement. Theoretically, I love being practical because I start from where is the problem. When I was in school, I was told that every time I am answering a question, I put my perspective on problem statement. So for me, I start from the problem. What is the problem? The problem is my vulnerable people don't get, even they are never included anywhere because we come from that constituency that is meant not to be in that ASA area where relief is taken. But there are people who are suffering what I call urban poverty.
I agree.
There are people who really are sleeping hungry in Roiro Utawala village because they are in Roiro town, which is not a very affected area. But they are in the urban poverty sector.
Mheshimiwa, can
we now start sharing revenues and whatever it is that we are sharing based on the number of people? And the number of people means the number of people who use their vote, to give
guarantee
the power.
Representation.
Yeah,
right. Mheshimiwa, based on your argument, what you're saying is, yes, you acknowledge there is a revenue sharing procedure.
Yeah.
There are indicators that have been generated which are agreeable. That if we were to say we are going to go with a health index, we are going to go with an agricultural index, it would be fine. But what you're saying is that it breaks down on implementation. Can I put it to you?
Yes.
That the problem that our country faces is a crisis of non-implementation. And that the reason why Kenyans are very disaffected with political leaders is because they blame political leaders for the failure of implementation.
Yeah.
And that what you're proposing, from where I sit, much as your argument is completely compelling and and the justification is valid, the solution you're proposing is political. And what it does is it puts the issue back into politics.
Thank you.
Rather than what the Constitution aims to do. And what the laws on devolution aim to do is to put the solution back into an institutional framework that is insulated from politics, but has a political role.
Yep.
So that as an MP you can go and campaign and say, we do not have a hospital here, we do not have a hospital here, these
my people
elderly,
don't have water.
And then
who is supposed to implement that?
You can engage in the system that will deliver. Last point I'll say about data, because I agree totally. Data is being manipulated. There is one, manipulated, second, not used, and then also some of the data that you're talking about isn't even official data. It is politically assigned roles. The Constitution requires...
But that is why we have politics.
No.
So that we can do that role of political.
Can I say one of the failures of implementation, which I would urge your committee to take up? The Constitution envisages that data would be collected at the county level. Before this government, before even the 2010 Constitution, there was a system called the community-based monitoring system that was piloted by the Ministry of Planning, using the local authorities then, where data was generated at the local level, so that using the community-based health system, using the community-based systems, you have data that even the citizens themselves know, because data is not supposed to be a secret.
And they are the source of the data. They're the ones who will be saying.
Allow me to finish. The point I'm making is that the problem you're trying to cure is a problem of non-implementation, and I would urge you to consider that the cure to the problem is to ensure the proper implementation so that you put power back to the bottom.
But doesn't
I
it
don't
go
want to
back
forget
to what
this.
she's missing?
I want you to allow me not to forget this. Shiro says, my approach, what I'm proposing, is political. Please remember I'm a politician. And I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I want you also to take your role as a civil society. Bring your proposal on the table. I've brought my political proposal on the table.
I'm put it back to
on
citizens.
The table. Let religious organizations put their proposal on the table. Let the pastoralists come up with their proposal on the table. We need a national dialogue.
The bottom
but you see,
up.
You can't.
I
don't like this approach of saying you want GATHONI to think like an economist. I'm not an economist. I'm a politician.
But
so I'm bringing my political perspective on the table, saying the people I represent as a politician deserve to be non-discriminated. They need to be represented fairly. They need to be given equal share of resources, and they need to be honored and dignified in their livelihoods.
But GATHONI, as a politician, you also have this other role. You have a role sitting in the National Assembly. You're a national leader. Yes, you're representing the people of Githunguri, but you also consider, as you talk, you consider...
But my representation role is supreme, by the way.
That's true.
Supreme.
You consider everybody else as you're sitting there.
Yes.
As you oversight. And that's where the functions that Wanjiru is talking about come in.
So I didn't come here
as
so that I can be told whether I'm right or wrong.
If you legislate...
I came here to air out my views
and to
as a politician and to receive others, and I'm happy that I've received.
And that's what we are doing.
But that does not mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean that I'm right.
Or that you're wrong.
Or I'm wrong.
No one is saying that.
But I want to be. I want to be.
We are saying
I want to be given the opportunity to justify where I'm coming from,
and I hear you.
The reason why I am saying what I am saying.
I hear you.
And then we create this national dialogue where we can all debate and agree.
As a representative,
this is not right. This is right at a later stage.
As a representative of the good people of Githunguri, you are speaking very well. Now, what I am asking you personally is, as the person who has the role of oversighting, okay, what do you do to make sure that these people that you represent are being served properly in oversighting? Because unless you're saying that let's collapse executive and bring executive to the legislature so that you are given all the money.
No, on oversight,
out of the 3.6 trillion shillings, we say watu wangapi wako Githunguri wapatiwe pesa yao, and then you go now to Githunguri and say pesa yetu ni 300 billion shillings, tutajenga dam, tupeleke maji kwetu, tuuze hiyo ingine kwa na watu wa Nairobi. Unless you're saying that, then you also have to consider, how do you make sure that the executive functions? How do you make sure that the executive supplies water to the people of Githunguri as they are supplying water to the people of Nairobi?
And I think in terms of oversight, we must agree there is a serious paradigm shift in the way the government has been implementing projects in the last 15 years of Kenyans' economic progress. If you look at the way projects were done in the 90s, through the national government to the sub-counties, and the way we are implementing projects now, there's a lot of difference. And I think the difference has been brought by the fact that there's a serious oversight role that has been played within those projects. Can I tell you, every single project that is happening in my constituency as an MP, I have a role to play in terms of oversight. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of wars, for example, between MPs and governors. Because there are projects that are oversighted by MPs, but the governors also want to be seen there, because national government projects seems to be done better and more efficiently and have more impact than the county government projects. In fact, when Shiro was speaking, I wanted to tell her that she mentioned about this
Commission on Revenue Allocation,
and how revenues are allocated to counties. And I just wanted to tell her that currently, right now in Githunguri, there is none project that was done by the previous governor and the current governor.
That's
none.
Implementation issue.
Yeah, that's
You're
what I'm saying.
conflating issues,
because
one
I just wanted to mention.
One is we're talking about sharing.
It was a point of information, my sister.
And then implementation.
Yeah, it was a point of information.
Okay.
Yeah, so the role of oversight as members of parliament has become very critical in projects. And in fact, this I must credit the president. The current president is very passionate about MPs oversighting projects. And every time there is a project coming to your area, he has insisted that the MP must be the central oversight pillar in those projects. And we have started oversighting not only when the budgets have been allocated, but even at the design stage, so that we can agree. For example, if I'm not comfortable with this road passing through this area and avoiding this area, and I think this is a very good way of working, because the impact of the project now can be seen and can be felt. There is more visibility of national government projects in the last 10 years in the sub-county level compared to the previous regimes.
And I think that's policy. Because I like what you're saying about oversighting projects. That's a plus. And I'm hoping you're putting the public involved, because, sovereignty starts with the people, and the ultimate overseer is the public. So even as the MP is oversighting, the public need the information, need to be able to do the social audits. But is Parliament also oversighting the policies? Because like we said earlier, you have to ask, is this project adding value to the livelihoods? Is it battling poverty? Is it building the economy? Because you could do amazing projects where you don't even steal money. But if it's the wrong project in the wrong place, it's not going to work. So is Parliament, because that's the point I think Eric was going at, there's this wider vision where we have to tame government from using projects politically at the expense of the overall development agenda. So that
I think the aspect of public participation is one of those that maybe I can say is a channel towards what you're asking. Because from where I come from, none of the projects that are visible right now or are funded right now, I don't know any project that the people of Githunguri have not endorsed, have said, we need this. And for example, for me to be able to do any project in Githunguri through CDF, the first process stage is for me to engage my people through public participation. So like the onset of this financial year, I had to do various public participation meetings in every village, and then the village would tell me we need a police station, or we need a hospital dispensary, or we need toilets, so whenever I am now coming to lay my proposal, I already have taken the views of my people and the needs. So then you can't come back and tell me that I prioritized a toilet or a market, yet you are the people who told me that you need it.
Yeah.
So I think even that's why I've said that for the last 15 years, the visibility of projects and the funding of the project has been very progressive, positively, because there's a lot of weight put on the voters by giving them the power to decide. A good example, I was the vice chair of Committee on Roads and Transport in the previous parliament, and I was involved very heavily on the policy that guided the project in terms of not only being a member of parliament and one of those that are sharing budgets, because I was involved in the sharing of the Mau Mau budgets, but also to ask ourselves, if this road passes through this area, how does it help the people of Githunguri? And I'm very excited because the projects that are happening in Githunguri right now, especially for Mau Mau roads, I played a very, very big role because I was the vice chair of roads. And I also engaged the people so that I can know if this road passes here, are we going to have a new factory, that a milk collection center, for example, a tea buying center that is going to boost the economy of the area.
Yeah.
So I can proudly say from the process, the roads that we are doing in Githunguri and parts of Gatundu South and Gatundu North are really viable roads, and people are excited about them. They can't wait for them to get finished or completed because they are going to open up. They have already opened up, and I'm very, very proud. Now, that's notwithstanding, I hear what Shiro is saying, that there are sometimes the president pledged during campaign a project, and he has to deliver because he pledged, not because the people really needed it, but because maybe somebody whispered to him that if you do for me a road here, you'll lift my political star. You understand? And then we find ourselves allocating budget to such projects that really don't make sense. Such projects, they exist, but they are few, because Parliament sometimes we rain on such projects and we deny budgets. And I want to congratulate the 12th Parliament. The previous Parliament, there is one thing that the 12th Parliament did that I will forever remember. I know you remember the scams around NYS. When we realized that we are putting in money into a hole and people are harvesting on the other side and the money is not getting anywhere, we stopped allocation of NYS budgets. And I remember the president forcing us, the president of the day, personally, he summoned me and told me, Wamushomba, what is this I'm hearing that you're denying NYS? My NYS. He said, my NYS. Money. I said, it is not yours, Your Excellency. It belongs to the people. And we cannot keep on putting money into a hole, and we don't know who is harvesting the money. And the parliament just refused. Across the board, not because of this political party or this one, we all agreed as oversighters that this one, we are not going.
We are not allocating anymore.
And completely refused.
Very
so I
good.
think we can't just bash MPs. We may not be doing very well, but we try.
You are at
we try.
On that
Yes,
positive
can you give
note,
us a better
on that positive note, we
Yeah.
take a break.